Okay.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. My watch says 5 after 5. We are missing one board member because of babysitting difficulties.
Yes.
Okay, but we do have a quorum full amount. Okay, approval of agenda.
I have a couple of additions. I would like to add under administrative reports, publicity. Actually, that's the only addition.
I move we approve the agenda as added to.
Okay, all those, is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. At this point, we will take public comments up. We will take it for 30 minutes, 3 minutes per person. You are to give your name and address. I don't think we're writing it down, just so we know.
No, it'll be recorded though.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. Mr. Plucker from Tushy.
Yes, I'm Nick Plucker, 803 Tushy North Road in Tushy. And after careful consideration, I'm opposed at building a building. I think that if we've got money to spend, it needs to be spent out in the rural communities. A point I'd like to put out is I did some tutoring for a young man out in Tushy, and I found that the library situation out there is very inadequate, and it would be nice to have a separate meeting room, perhaps a couple of rooms for tutoring, and a separate room where the computers are, so when kids come in, nobody's disturbed. Basically, I was in an area like this trying to tutor a kid with a meeting going on and kids coming in is very difficult. So I am opposed at spending that kind of money on this building that's been talked about. I would rather see it spent out in our outlying communities, building buildings like perhaps Burbank has out there.
Thank you, Nick. Can I comment to that?
Go ahead.
Part of this plan, I don't know how well it talked about it in the article, but we are looking at purchasing a building in Tushy, adding on to it, Mr. Architect, if you have, it's very much a major part of the whole plan.
How about 5.5 million?
Yeah, the 5.5 million that was in the paper includes Tushy, Prescott, and Burbank's, either new libraries, additions, changes. That dollar amount was the 3.6 for the new administration center and those things. But in looking at our facilities,
I don't think it stated that in the paper, did it?
No, it did not.
Correction is supposed to come out tomorrow night.
That's right.
Then also, if there is a building to be built, I feel it should be built out in College Place, not in Walla.
Very good.
And I would like to see basically the city and county have a city-county library if they need to have it in Walla. There's nothing wrong with that building there. The city and county have already doubled up on agencies. I believe the Planning Commission is city-county. There's no reason why the library can't be the same thing.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, the other Mr. Plucker.
Piggyback off my father. My name is Chris Plucker. I'm City of Walla Walla. Prepared some remarks for the board. These remarks have been prepared prior to all the UB coverage, so I want to preface that, but this is not in response to the recent articles. I'm a council member of the City of Walla Walla. The following remarks are made on my own behalf and are not intended to represent the sentiments of other members of the Walla Walla City Council. Yet, being an elected representative of nearly 30,000 people, I speak to what I believe are the best interests of not only those who elected me, but those other members of our community who are directly impacted by the decisions I take part in making. I have not come here tonight to solicit funds, nor have I come to propose a final solution as to how the city and RLD might reach an agreement in respect to the way we work with one another. My intent tonight is a hope that we might preserve the fragile relationship that, even now, teeters on the verge of falling apart. I am convinced that the relationship between the RLD and the City of Walla is absolutely necessary in order to provide the highest quality service to all our constituents. Only by working together can we truly provide the exemplary library experience our patrons deserve. I refuse to believe there is no way for our two entities to come together and work out a healthy working relationship. Unfortunately, this board's decision to move ahead with constructing a brand new library near the city limits is the roadblock to finding a successful way to work together. I believe I speak on behalf of the majority of our community when I say that this structure is unnecessary. The primary issue in my mind is that the construction of this building will be redundant. There simply is no need for a new structure to house books in and around the city of Walla Walla when one already exists. In respect to geographical location, the city library is perfectly accessible for rural residents living close to the city limits of Walla Walla. Clearly, access to the city library by county residents is a topic for discussion between our two entities. And though it has been historically difficult for the both of us to come to agreement on how this should look, it is nevertheless important work for us to take part in. Whether or not it is your intent to communicate so, constructing this urban library sends a powerful message to the people of this valley that the RLD has no interest in preserving an ongoing relationship with the City of Walla Walla's public library. Please consider the disappointment of the majority of our collective population should you see this project through. Although I do not live in the county, I am very familiar with the importance of the services provided by the RLD, having been a resident of Touchy for most of my life. I cannot help but to ask, is this truly what your constituents of the county want? Is this how people in Prescott, Touchy, Burbank, and further outlying areas want their hard-earned money spent? It is not for me to provide the answer to this question, but I truly hope you have the best interests of those you are charged to serve in mind when you make your final decision. I urge you all to set these plans aside and resume the important work of collaborating with the City of Walla Walla to find a solution for providing exceptional service to all our constituents of our wonderful town and county. We are a community. Let us not allow one of our most treasured assets, the public library, tear us apart and leave us divided. Members of the board, please do not build this library. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name's George Smith. I live at 2426 New Haven Drive in Walla Walla in the county. I find spending $5.5 million unconscionable to duplicate services that we already have. I don't know how you can possibly justify it.
Thank you. Respond to the 5.5.
Again, it's 5.5 for the whole community in the county of Walla Walla.
That's fine. How much for the new building?
3.6 is what, but that isn't the building, that's also the architect
Fine.
for all of the buildings that
Great.
we're doing.
Why are we doing this? Why do we need a new building? Why do we need new fixtures? Why do we need, I mean, what is the city charging the county?
Go ahead.
We put out a lot of literature on that, and we will be continuing to put out information. We're going to put a factual thing in the newspaper.
Where do you put it out?
We have been distributing it at meetings and so on, and you're welcome to come in and visit with me personally. I'm the interim director, and I will sit down with all the documentation and talk to you about it and be happy to show you what I can.
Is it this, the forum for doing this?
We have delivered a lot of this information in the forum, in the work session, where Jackie George and Bart Priest were there, and we gave them all the material.
The one in Burbank during working hours?
Yes, that's
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So we will continue to put out the information. If you come see me, I will be happy to provide.
I really don't want the information. I don't want to see this new building built. I
Well,
don't want to see my money spent that way.
I understand. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Linda Apples, 408 Wallula. I'm in the county. I'd like to know what the percent of city residents actually use the library. If you're only serving like 15 to 20% of your population, you have a huge problem right there to begin with. It's a waste of money.
What proportion of this?
Right now, 17% of the county residents have cards at the Walla Walla City Library.
Well, what about, how are the city residents supporting, are they even supporting their own library?
The
They are not
city of-
providing.
City of Walla Walla supporting their own library.
Yeah, how
Yeah, what's the
many
Is it
city
20%,
people actually have a library card?
It's 23%, I think.
That's bad.
Yeah, it is.
That's
It's
very,
poor.
very bad.
If we had the service that you have in other areas, we've got it up around 40%. 40% usage in the county would be more than could park and access that downtown library. That's one of the things that we're concerned with, is looking at the growth of where we should be in library usage. We would be overusing the library. And we don't have enough for our own people well in the county and access.
And then I'd like to know, it talked about Fire District 4 and Fire District 8 in the paper. Does each fire district, each resident pay a different tax rate for the rural library?
No,
We all
Why
do the
are
same.
you singling out districts 4 and 8 in the paper?
because those are the ones that represent suburban Walla Walla usage, and they're the ones that tend to walk into the city library for services.
Okay. But we're not paying, each district not paying?
No,
Okay.
no.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Alanapolis, 408 Walla Avenue. I think this is a very poor road to go down, to build a new building and suffer the consequences then of the maintenance and the cost of a new building and everything that goes with it, and stocking the shelves and the books. To say nothing about the librarians and the staffing. I think we're in a new era where we're in the Kindles and book readers and downloading. I think this brick and mortar library in the Walla Walla vicinity is absolutely asinine. It is the most terrible thought of using taxpayer money, because apparently the negotiations don't seem to be getting anywhere. Now, I don't know if they've considered arbitration or mediation or a bigger stick or just what, but I just do not believe that this is the way to go. Why do we need another building when we have totally sufficient library? And you talk about the parking. I go by there a lot. Occasionally I stop in. Very seldom is there ever a parking problem in that library.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jennifer Lee, 25 Northwest B, College Place, which seems to be an island of its own. I don't have my card to the city library because it's $135, which puts that library out of reach for I don't know how many families in the area. When this one came in, I thought, great, I live in the county. And the first thing they told me was $135, which has been reduced to $40. So I do have a card from there. By the way, milk free water is $35 to get a card down there. So I have a card down there too. I wasn't sure how I felt about building a new building. I was really concerned mostly that the two libraries couldn't work something out. I mean, surely. Apparently there is, well, no, I don't have that information in my head. But I don't know, I'm just going to listen tonight. I don't know still yet what would be the better thing, to build a new building or not. As for having books, a lot of people in the teaching profession say, hey, put Twitter or something in as your homework and make the kids use the technology that they have. That's fine if you live on Bainbridge Island where everybody has the latest gadgets they've got, but in Walla Walla, not everybody has the latest gadget to download. Yeah, we're kind of in the dark ages. So brick and mortar would work fine. The usage of the city library is a little disappointing though. So I would go for figuring out a way to put the the services where people can use them in Tushy and in other little places, rather than building. It just seems strange to build one building. And I'm happy to hear that you're going to work on a few other buildings in the area too. So,
Thank you. Any other comments?
Karen Anderson, 3274 Mud Creek Road, Waitsburg. I live above Dixie. I'm very disappointed in your decision to build another building. You already know that that is not what pleases me. I think that the taxpayers in the county should have a say in how the library tax is used, and we have not been given that opportunity, and I understand we will not be. How many people in this room voted for the RLD tax in 1971 or 72?
I think I did.
And when I did that, the discussion was, this is a way for the county residents to have access to the Walla Walla City Library. That's what the RLD was designed to do. I'm very happy that you also provided services in Burbank and Prescott and Tushy when it's harder, farther distance for them to come. I think, it's not just the two donuts, Fire District 4 and 8, that use the library. I do extensively. And I do not want a separate building built with my tax dollars when what it was presented as was that it would be access to the Walla Walla City Library.
Thank you.
And I do not want College Place to be a place of discussion for placing it, because College Place pays no library tax.
And they're going to have two new libraries. With the new Davis, they're going to have a new library. And with the new high school, they're going to have two new libraries.
Excuse me, Karen, what year was that voted on?
It was 71 or 72.
74.
It was in the
74?
It was in the newspaper article.
Anybody else have a comment?
My name is Karen Wolf, and I live at 2005 Hillbrook Drive. I also have farm ground in the county, so I'm kind of double connected, but I just had a couple of comments. First of all, I think each of us in the city and the county would like to see the budget for the Rural Library and see, I think that's important. And I've had people ask about the library that's across the parking lot. What is the budget for that? And since the editorial in the newspaper, I've heard a lot of conversation. I think it's been a lot of conversation in our community. And I have to say that the number one comment, the common thread, is that this is a duplication of services at the taxpayer's expense. And I don't feel like the community is being heard. I feel like there has to be a way, before you commit this kind of money and take out debt, that you have to truly, truly listen to the community. But you have to put the information out there and let the community know, how is your budget spent? It's a big budget. And the community, I think, has to know. But I feel like you have a responsibility to listen to the community. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? And it could be as simple, before you move forward on this library, Saturday market, have a postcard-sized questionnaire. See if the community is behind you. I don't feel they are. 100% of the people I've talked to since the editorial have said it's duplication of services.
We should vote. We should have a special election vote.
You know, I don't know how that works.
We should.
I'm
It's
not,
our tax dollars.
but I think they should. I think you need to listen to the community before you commit this amount of money or commit to this building. That's
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name is Larry Bow. I live at 900 South Hussey, so I would be considered rural farm according to the Census Bureau. Anyway, I've been married to a librarian for 27 years. She's the librarian at Davis, and she thinks this is just not the right thing to do. You combine services, you don't separate them. You consolidate services. Is books and other materials that you would purchase, would they be duplicates of what's at the library now out there? Because I love to go through the stacks and just grab something on history. I never know what I'm going to read when I go into the library. I just pick something out that interests me.
Yeah.
Is there going to be duplication or not?
I'd like to answer that. Already we have on bestsellers and popular items, we have the same titles in both jurisdictions, and they go out regularly to all the people that want to use the materials. So in that sense, there's duplication already. As far as efficiencies and so on, we're trying to provide library access to our taxpayers in this suburban area and to provide a foundation for us to serve the entire county with the collections it needs. Now, up until January of this year, our collections were in a unified catalog. And knowing librarian speak, you'll know that that means that you go to one site and the Walla City and the rural and the community college titles are all in the same database. We reserve, we borrow, we trade, and so on. The city pulled out of that. So they're going backward in terms of consolidation. I couldn't agree with you more. The cooperation and consolidation is the wave of the future. And we hope to be able to do that. But we need a comparable facility. They need a comparable facility, and then everybody will have better access to more things. But there's no way that we can support our responsibility to our taxpayers without having a place from which to launch our services, to provide our collections, and so on. So in that sense, there really is an enrichment of services rather than a duplication.
I suppose, just one more comment. Area-wise, it's not that large an area. I mean, I grew up in a city of 90,000 in the Midwest, and we had branch libraries. Of course, they all worked with the main library, but this just is not a huge metropolitan area, and to say that I live in the suburbs is just not right. I'm rural, non-farm. I live right next to the City College Place. I don't consider myself a suburbanite.
Well, I use that term, some people call it the donut. It's an area in which we do not yet have a facility, is all. We developed our rural facilities first because there was no service at all in those communities, and they paid taxes as well. But now we're in a position to complete the facility development, and in order to serve the entire population in those other communities, we really need to have a proper infrastructure, which is a home library. We don't have one. We just have a strange little office, and we put up plaza to give people access to the databases, because we have that and the city's no longer joined with us, so we have no other way to provide knowledge of our resources except by having an outlet in the community. So it's been a process, but this is not intended to be a duplication of services. It's intended to be an enhancement of services. And the last thing I want to say is that we're not using operating revenues to do this. This is infrastructure, capital structure, expenditure money that's been put together over the years for the purpose of rounding out the facilities, the infrastructure of this district to serve its people. And this is just one more step in that process. It's not meant to be a conflict with the city. It's meant to enrich the resources. And on the other side of this, if there isn't a consolidation or an annexation, there could be two equally competent libraries that have completely open and free access between one another. There's no reason why that couldn't be the case.
But we don't need two libraries.
We do not.
You know, we need a library to serve our population.
Your population is sitting here and we're saying...
That's not true. We have a population all the way to Burbank.
Where are they? There's nobody in this room I've seen who spoke up in favor of this.
Tuesday?
Well,
Generally, the people who come to gatherings like this are the people who are unhappy.
yeah.
Seriously, I mean, that's,
Well,
other than that, I mean,
so does that mean you don't pay attention to it?
no. It just means that, you know, this isn't everybody.
I agree. We should have, the citizens should have a vote on spending this kind of money.
you should have a vote on, apparently you have too much money, we need to cut your tax rate in half, apparently. Apparently the rural library simply has too much money. The assessed rate should be cut in half.
Because you're good stewards, you get punished.
Yes.
We've saved money.
Make the choices.
You don't need it. You don't
We've
need
saved
it.
money for 40 years.
To try
That's
to
what
do
we're-
something.
Yeah, that's what this money is, that we're now saying we can enhance our community libraries and build a facility for administration and services for the other area.
Our collections throughout the county are 77,000 titles. And we share the database with 42,000 from the community college. Together that's 111,000 or so. That equals the holdings at the city library. We're not a tiny little library that does not serve all the needs of the people. But we can't do it when we don't have a facility. We just cannot.
You can share a facility.
This gentleman had a question. Your name, please, and address.
Rod Applegate, 3330 Ranch Road. Last time I checked, it was in the county. You never know nowadays. I feel like the fellow that jumped on the horse and rode off in all directions. I have property in College Place, but I live out the other side of Walla in the county. I have a concern. It appears that this district does not have to have any public vote of the people that it represents. And to me, that causes a real problem. Also, I'd like to know what the budget is for the new buildings. What is the operating budget? And what are the capital expenses? And personnel and all of that sort of thing. And I'm sure you must have struggled with that, but I'd be very interested to see those figures.
Give me your address again and I'll get it to you.
3330 Ranch Road.
I'd like it
It's to go out to everyone. It should be in the
I'll put it on the website.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll put it on the
Everybody can see it.
website, but he asked specifically and I'll give it to him.
Okay.
How about the newspaper? They've taken an interest in this.
You know,
Yeah, they really do.
Well, Karen, right off the bat, the article that was in yesterday's paper, it is not correct.
But this would be your information.
Well, we gave them the information to write the article.
The main thing that was wrong
And
is
it
they
came out
were
cockeyed
spending
again.
the
It's-
5.6 on the new library, and that was wrong. It's not.
No.
yeah.
Did anyone
We
read
have a heck of a
tonight's
time getting
article?
the right.
No,
Yes.
I didn't.
We haven't
Was it
gotten
the-
our paper yet.
Okay, was it Larry? Larry Bowe, was that?
Pardon?
Did you read tonight's paper? I think you
I
said,
haven't seen it.
okay,
Tonight's
did
paper.
anyone?
There's
Has
a
anyone?
correction
I
on
did,
the
John.
inside page is about this large.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
They
he's-
put it to the
But
bottom.
they're,
Do you think it'll answer any questions, or is it?
I don't think it will address the concerns that
it
are.
won't be.
Well, it won't answer the concerns of what we're talking about here, but does it answer the questions about the construction cost estimates?
I just saw it was there, John, I didn't get a chance to digest it.
Okay.
It's not there.
I can address that.
Hopefully it will.
They immediately put in a correction, but the corrections automatically go on page 2 with all the other corrections, unlike the blazing headlines that show up on Sunday. But they feel very bad about it, and Alfred Diaz is writing an article tonight that will come out in tomorrow's paper where he corrects the numbers and adds more information because he feels quite bad about getting that critical fact wrong. So you can watch for it.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Betty Hall. My address is
Sorry.
1271 Bob Barrow Lane. Did you call on me?
I was thinking you were Dorothy Knudsen, sorry. I apologize.
How many people would you have to hear from to believe that your taxpayers don't want the library? We're not enough? How many would you need?
I got your half hour.
That's an excellent
It's been
question.
yes, sir.
This is Alex DeMambro, 602 Boyer from Walla. Listening to the conversation, I'm wondering if there's some disconnect between duplication of services and a building. Building a library is never a bad idea. Never a bad idea. I think this gentleman over here, Katushi, could use better services. I think the concept of spending money on libraries should never be considered just wrong. But it sounds like it really is a conversation about duplication of services. Just right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I was serious with my question. What percentage of the taxpayers would you have to hear from?
We recorded that question.
We recorded the question. We'll see if it's something we can respond to later. Thank you. Anything else? Any new people that wanted to respond? No? Okay, sir.
Just one clarification. I don't have a big problem with the rural libraries, so to speak, in the outlands, Burbank, Prescott, Waitsburg, and that. But a new library in the vicinity of Walla Walla, no way.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will. Darla?
So would the new building house the service center?
Yes.
Yes.
All that in town?
Right.
And would there be books on the shelf?
Sure.
For people
And
to go
Plaza,
in
and
and
Plaza
borrow?
wouldn't be here.
So
And
full service
Plaza
library.
would eventually be closed.
The what would?
That
The Plaza
Plaza
would
would
be
be
closed.
closed. That is just providing the service.
Is there still
to
a
the
mail
people.
order?
Pardon?
Is there still a mail order service? I couldn't remember. if that
No,
was
we
still
have the integrated library, ILS.
Yeah.
ILM
Yeah,
and a library loans as well
Right.
too? Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, public session is open.
Okay.
Okay, we have minutes to be approved. There's 3 separate times we have met and we want to approve separately. Is that?
It's
or
up to
maybe
you.
if we-
It's
Well,
up to
I'm
you.
fine to.
You've all
move it along.
seen them in advance.
Yeah.
Did you see anything?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
There's not a date on the 27th. The date isn't there.
Where are you at, Karen?
Special board meeting. There's not a date on it. But it is on the second page.
Yeah, it's because I had it attached to the other meeting and then I
Yeah.
separated it out. I'm sorry. I will give it a hit.
Yeah, just give it a heading.
I will.
Okay, so if we can have a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, depending on ones. Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve June 11th, the special board meeting on the 27th and the work session on the 27th. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, the same. Okay. Financial reports. Talita.
Well, you have a copy of it there in your packet. And there, Well, Jean was gonna bring the vouchers for signing.
Okay.
But anyway, that's okay. You have the expenditure status report. You can see it there. There's a couple copies in the group if you want to look through them. This comes out every month, and it has the appropriation, the adjusted appropriation, the expenditures, the year-to-date expenditures, the percent used, and the balance. And there's nothing particularly unusual here. Does anyone have any questions?
Service center books and materials.
That is a line that isn't making sense because we were buying high materials which will be reimbursed.
Okay, all right, okay.
And so they happen to be sitting in that line, and when the reimbursement comes in, they'll go away.
Okay.
And the intergovernmental professional services?
Is that the,
Database?
no, that's the contract with the city.
Oh, okay.
This is half of it that
Because
we
it wasn't in
paid
the
last
budget
month.
before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did adjust that appropriation. I don't know why she didn't get it straightened out.
What?
Yeah, because I gave Susan down at the auditor's office the adjusted appropriation, and I do not see that she's captured it here, even though, if you look at the bottom appropriated line, she did capture the other thing. So I'll have to get back to her to get that appropriation up to 245,000, unless she put it somewhere else. She did, she put it under uncategorized on the previous page.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
She has 279,956 under uncategorized, and then she paid the bill out of the intergovernmental. So,
Okay.
okay. But the money's there and it's been appropriated.
And then the final payment is December?
I think it's November.
November?
Yeah. So, And then you have your vouchers here. I do not have the one for signing because Jean didn't bring it. And the reason that Jean was working so late on, she was waiting for the mail for the Orbis telephone thing, because this is the earliest in the month that the second Monday can ever be. And the mail just had not come. So she did receive it, and she was putting it together, and she said she'd have it down to me, but I have the feeling that she tried the door and it didn't work and she gave up.
Oh, we would have seen her. This
No,
year?
the other door.
No, the other door
The other door.
probably.
Well, it's okay.
But it's okay.
I can come by.
Yeah, well, we have the entire vouchers here.
Right.
And you can go ahead and appropriate.
We don't need the actual.
You don't need that other thing, it just has to be signed for me
Right.
to take down to the treasurer.
Right.
But you'll see all of the expenditures for the month, and you'll see at the back, you'll see the list of salaries. Staffing and salaries. So, what I need to do,
What will you be advertising? Exactly the meetings we have in public meetings?
Remember the new problem in personnel?
Or
personnel, you know, I don't have.
Yeah.
No,
I think that's what that is.
the actual. She still had them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it's just
Okay, so how, format-wise, how can we?
Well, since I don't have the numbers for the payroll, which is the first numbers, you can appropriate the entire budget, and you can say from the pay. Oh, she's got it, 364. It's right there. It's voucher number. The back page there, the back golden on page 364, all the way through, and your very last one is
419.
Yeah, 419.
362 to 419?
Right. Now you don't,
364.
but you don't have the total. You don't have the total.
Do you want to call her?
Hmm?
Do you want to call her?
I doubt she's there.
She should be gone.
Huh?
She should be
She also
gone.
has to
Oh,
be.
she'd be gone, yeah.
We can take care of that later.
Okay, you want to take all that?
Yeah.
I need to approve something.
Yes.
At some point. I mean,
Right.
So
We need to table
we
that.
can give them voucher numbers, we won't have a total.
you can give the voucher number, she won't have a total. See if she followed me. Yeah, that's strange because she was,
She's generally pretty darn.
well, she was working on it diligently.
Yeah.
I doubt it because she would have been done.
Here's the meeting.
That's strange. And she even got that on the front page the way we wanted it. I think it would be foolish to add this up by hand.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Well,
So,
as long as you get it right or
Voucher
another.
number, the amount that's on the payroll,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the other part?
I think it's just custom that you say both.
Yeah.
I think if you approve the
You
voucher
need
number.
the amount.
Huh?
We need the amount.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, how do you want to do that?
Let's table the
Table it.
review and signing of vouchers, and we'll have a meeting at the office
To go over that.
to
Sign voucher.
To sign the vouchers.
with the proper.
So everybody will get paid on time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time because I said it's the earliest it can
Yeah.
ever possibly be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Treasurer's financial
that also did not come in because of the
timing?
Yeah, and I asked Gene, I said, well, maybe we should make it the regular third Monday of every month, but then some months it would be too late to make the,
Get you the pays, yeah, to get the vouchers.
that's exactly
Yeah.
right. So this, so
is
the
just
second,
a quirky month.
well, it's just the earliest it could ever be.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so we finished financial reports, going on to administrative reports, facilities planning update.
okay, we have the reader board for Plaza.
Oh, good.
All
Yep,
right.
and it's been received and delivered. The tables for Vista Hermosa and Plaza have been ordered and are being made, and the chairs were purchased over White's Unfinished Furniture, and so they're being put together by Brian Seagraves, and so we'll go with the tables and chairs. And the idea out at Vista was that we would take down a center rank of shelving, which is not used, and put the tables down there for the teenagers that come in. We'll talk about Vista a little bit later, but that was the purpose of those tables. And then we're going to see how the one table works out over at Plaza, and then get the rolling cart and see how all that fits in. We have Kathy Page from San Francisco arriving Wednesday to travel around with me and John to look at our outlying community facilities, to see what the state of them is right now, and to look at the public forum input, and to talk about the kinds of enhancements that will be done to those community facilities. She is part of John's team, and if you want to say more about that.
Well, Kathy, I brought her on as a programming person for the building program for each of the facilities that we're studying. She comes well regarded and has had some information already given to her about the projects, and she in fact has turned around and given us back some preliminary questions, mostly for Aletha to go through, I believe, and just in terms of being prepared for her visit here so that we can make the most of that time. She'll be here on Wednesday and Thursday, and I suspect that Aletha and Kathy and I will be spending a lot of time together, and I hope that you all will feel free to run into us somewhere. I'm not sure what our schedule is yet, but I can make it known if you're interested. So
Lunch.
lunch. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Staff development?
We have received 6 applicants so far for the branch manager position in Burbank. It closes on the 13th, which is Friday, I think. Mm-hmm. And we have received one from Yakima, one from Omaha.
Oh my goodness.
One coming in from Boston.
Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, but you haven't heard the best of it. I've never in my life seen this. I got an email today from a woman who's a librarian at the Amundsen Research Center at the South Pole. And she wanted to know if she could send it by email because the plane doesn't go out in time.
Wow, how did she ever see that?
Internet?
It was in the national.
Yeah, it was published in the Pacific Northwest Library Association, the Oregon Library Association, the Intermountain Library Association.
Wow.
So that's a first. That's a first. So and a couple of them look very good. So we're continuing to work on that, and the other thing is, I just got the news today, sadly, that Gabby is going to go back to school in September in Cheney, so we will lose her services.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So we'll have to be hiring there too. And that's it for the staff development. The staff reports were written. I don't know if you have any comments.
They were great.
They were great.
I know.
They were great.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of excitement in all of them for what they're doing.
They do fabulous summer reading programs out there, just fabulous.
People are reaching.
Yeah.
It's great.
unfortunately, Plaza is not getting the kids that they wanted, you know. It's a different demographic, so.
Well, we'll get our
And
report
it's,
going.
yeah, and it's new. It's new, so. But they have a lot of the kids from farm labor homes that are brought up, especially for the programming. So
That's good.
Yeah, really. The numbers out in the branches are looking really good for the summer meeting.
yeah, I know,
It's
they're
amazing, and
unbelievable.
the program attendance, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Technology?
Well, I've added the
She's added
publicity.
Is
Right,
there a-
okay, I thought that.
Is there a report about the executive director search? I don't see anything in the minutes from previous meetings about that being put on hold.
That was supposed to be on this month, wasn't
No, it was the August meeting.
August,
We were gonna talk
August.
about that.
Okay.
But we had announced earlier, and that might be what Bart was referring
about,
to,
yeah.
that we had set out a timeline maybe 6 months ago or more, that we were going to probably do it in April and maybe have somebody on board by summer.
That
But-
was the understanding I had at the time. You know.
That's true, but the board has discussed it in executive meeting and has decided to not do that at this time.
But that decision isn't announced after the executive session is over?
Well, the decision wasn't made really. I guess what I'm trying to say is that a decision wasn't made. It's on the agenda for August because I am contracted through September. So.
Thank you.
Okay, publicity?
Right, there are a number of things. One, of course, was the article by Alfred Diaz. I would like to say publicly that it was a very well-balanced article. I applaud him for having come over and interviewed me at length, and he received a great deal of data, and he did a really good job in trying to sort through some of the complexities. Unfortunately, of course, he got the 5.5 million wrong, which was headlines on a Sunday. So that has created quite a lot of misunderstanding, which he will correct, as I've already told you, within an article he's writing tonight. Okay? And then I had a good visit with Bart Priest, who is, of course, Walla Walla Watchdogs blog, and that is an outlet for conversation about the government and community issues. So I appreciate his interest and his talking to me and taking data and information and asking questions and making sure that he is truly informed about what we're trying to do. I compliment both those gentlemen for that. The city of Walla Walla had a work session
The city council.
yes, it's a work session of the city council. And I just, it's naturally public information, and it was on the internet. It got pulled down, and on page 5 of the work session minutes, it says that the subheading is there was discussion on the impact on library services by discontinuing access to citizens outside of the city's jurisdiction. And then the third bullet on the next page says, disappointment was expressed in the negotiations with the rural library district. City staff attempted to look at annexation into the library district, but the decision by the rural library district to construct another library led to a financial roadblock, making annexation financially impossible.
That's not right.
No, it's not. That's why I
That's
read it
not-
to everybody. This is what's being told to the city council. It's not a financial roadblock because it's capital money, it's not operating money. The decision to build another library, as that gentleman who was sitting in that chair said, is always an asset. It's not a
Oh,
detriment.
here it comes. Can you
Oh, good.
Wonderful.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you
People
so
can
much,
get paid.
Jane. Thank you. Yeah.
Just, I put the voucher numbers for each page at the top, so.
Thank
they're
you.
all on each page.
Thank
What's
you.
on each page?
They're
Voucher
just the
numbers.
numbers that are
She's good.
on each page.
Vouchers.
We have more data.
Very good.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
No
Jane.
problem.
Thank you. pick it up and-
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, since we're talking about public information, and since this is public information, I want the board to hear this. And I also want to say publicly, it's not the same money, it's capital money, but it's an enhancement to library services to have another full-service library outlet. And it says the city staff attempted to look at annexation into the library district. We all tried to look at it. It was the library working group whose documents are now public. They're on both the city website and the library website. You may go on to either of those websites and you may look through all of the comments and all of the spreadsheets and data that was generated for those conversations, which were held without the public present for their duration, and now all that information is public. And it does not, except for what certain people at the city continue to repeat, which is not a true statement. There's nothing else in that library working group documents that indicate that this is the case. There were many, many reasons, and we put out a joint statement that essentially said that it was, at this time, not financially feasible for either party to enter into a consolidated annexation arrangement. And I would suggest that anybody who is really concerned to know the numbers and how it works out for an annexation or consolidation, come talk to me. And we're also going to put out a fact sheet, as Carol Peterson recommended, in the newspaper. We're going to buy space and say, these are the facts. But this is what we're hearing in public. So I want to share that with you. That's all I have on that.
Okay. Unfinished business, review strategic planning goals.
They were, the day after our work session, Ruth and Josh and Anna and I sat down and we took all that input and came up with the goals. Ruth thought she would have them back to me in the form that we had developed them, so that I could report back to you, but she has not yet, and she will be giving us the final report at the August meeting.
Okay.
So we'll just have to wait for that. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought I would have more to tell you on that. Okay.
Okay. Did you have something you needed to?
No, I brought this in case anybody wanted to talk about any of those LWG documents. I brought it simply so they'd be available.
Oh, any discussion desired required regarding the library working group public documents that are on computers, that's what she was.
Yeah, there may be no
Or
discussion at
websites,
all.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. But this is the material that was released to the public with a public information request to the city.
At this,
I was going to say, why don't you mention again who was on the library working group so that the public knows who were the members of that group?
okay, the representatives from the county were Alita, myself, Donna Zicure from the county, obviously, and
A citizen.
Citizen, right. And she's an ex-superintendent, principal, educator, worked in libraries, this type of thing. And the other person was Doug Case, who is the president of the College Place School Board, worked strong to get the, he was on the county representative, and he lives out close to state line, still kind of Tushy area, state line. On the city side was, I blanked out, young lady.
Jane
Ellen.
Ellen.
Yeah, thank you, Jane Ellen Ennis. And
Thanks for calling me on.
and Beth Hudson and Barb Clark and
Ryan
Schreck. And he works at Key Technology.
And he's on the Housing Authority Board.
Right. So those, and then we had the county paid for a facilitator because there had been a very strong thought that we would need one, so the city didn't have the money, and we paid for a facilitator, Susan Newton, who is a local person, to facilitate, and she is going to be speaking at the Library Users Coalition on the 17th of July about the process, because I think they were concerned that it hadn't been a good process, and she's going to speak to that. Is that correct, Betty?
Yes, we have notices of the meeting, if anybody wants them.
Okay, thank you.
Can you give, I read through all of the LWG stuff. And
Good for you.
Insomnia one night will drive you to read anything. But could you explain just a little bit how you worked? The February notes, you've got a little thing here of squares of boxes. You know, how, I know you set up all your rules and you know, all of that. But how did you actually work together? Were you mixed? Was every meeting different? I mean, from the notes, it's pretty tough to tell.
It is tough to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everything was captured, but the thread was captured, and none of the statements are attributed, which I think she did on purpose. We met, we set up the ground rules so that we could know.
When there was major research being done, usually the facilitator would assign Beth and Alisa to work together to do the research, and then together they would present the research that they did. There was a couple times when they couldn't get together. They both researched it. They ended up coming on the same. So, and then the rest of us, we just kind of asked questions, listened.
Did you break out
No,
or
it was
work together?
totally, we worked together.
Totally.
Can I address?
Well, I meant that in a
Oh,
positive
yes,
way,
yeah.
actually.
I will tell you, I thought we were a high-functioning team.
Yeah.
I didn't think that any of us had an agenda when we came into it. I don't think that even though I was appointed by the city, I wasn't thinking in terms of city-county. I didn't get that from any of the participants that were there. I think that in the end, with the information we had, we just saw there was no way that we could make it work given the statistics, the current data and statistics that we have.
And this is a person that the city chose to be a part of this, and this is, so you're hearing that side too.
It was, I mean, really, we spent, what, 4 or 5 months together?
Yeah.
It was, I'm not gonna say it was a joy to go to the meetings, but I didn't, you know, I did not like it. I thought we were productive. We looked at a lot of options, and I missed the meeting that Ryan spoke at, when I think, and I don't really know, he summarized, I guess, what was going on pretty well, and I wasn't at that meeting, so, you know, which was the last one.
Yeah.
Teach me to miss.
I think it was apparent from reading through this that you, Alisa and Beth both did a tremendous amount of research
They did.
and a lot of work, and I think,
And
and I'm sure everybody worked hard, and it's unfortunate.
It is what it is, unfortunately.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, yeah, thank you, Patsy. We are going into executive session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
vouchers,
need to
thank
do
you.
that, thank you.
That would
Yes,
be
we
very
have the
helpful.
vouchers now.
No, better go into an executive session.
Answer any questions you have.
How long did you take this? Not just one.
Well, I know what you wanted, you had some questions that you were talking about budgets. Have you been on our website?
Hang around till they come back.
Go to the website. For the rural library.
Okay, you know, we
You
can
will
go into
get
the
a-
break room and have executive session.
You will get
You
a
guys
wealth
don't
of
even have to leave.
information.
Is this just for
What do you
last
think
month?
about that?
I don't see
Yeah.
any dates. Is that okay?
Yeah.
For the month of June?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, instead of making all them leave.
No, we can just move.
Yeah,
We
that's
can
what I'm
move.
thinking.
Are you looking for a motion for this?
Yes, please.
Mhm.
Good, look, right.
So 364 to 422, I think.
422, okay.
Okay.
So I make a motion, we pay the vouchers, numbered 3, where are we?
364.
I think we're out of line here.
364.
364 to
And the invoice.
To 390.
422.
Right,
Okay.
and the amount is
$65,224.46.
65,224.46?
Correct.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second to approve the vouchers, 364 to 422 in the amount of 65,224.46. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So we will be going into the room here
We
for,
won't take long. It won't
yeah,
be long.
executive session. This is closed to public, and it is for the purpose of discussing real estate acquisition per RCW 42.30 to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase. We will adjourn and come back, no decisions will be made, and we will adjourn and come back into public session as soon as we're through. So you're welcome to stay. John's coming in, because he's our architect.
Yep.
Did you sign the petition?
Okay, we are back in regular meeting. It is, my watch is 19 after 6. Is that what you have? 20 after?
Well, that's fine.
That's good.
I have 17 after.
Okay, good, because mine's usually fast. Okay, so we have new business, Vista Hermosa facilities.
Right, now you each have in your packets, they're not in those packets, you each have some work that, that John has done for us on a very quick timetable. I am here to tell you that I got a call early last week, about a week ago, from Missy Summers, who is the principal there. And after 3 or 4 months of not calling me back and saying, oh, we're really not going to do anything, she called and said, well, she says, we want to, move the library this summer because we want that for classrooms.
That's what I figured it was.
Yeah, so fine. So, well, first of all, she's thinking like a month and a half that we're supposed to like move out of there. So I went out immediately and I talked to her, and she offered me a 400 square foot room. Right now we have about 1,100 square feet. So this is completely unacceptable. Plus we provide all the services to that school. And the school probably needs a library in order to be certified. And also they take students from the Prescott School District. So they really can't get rid of a library. Plus I took out the contract, the agreement that was signed by Roger Barstow.
Yes.
Yeah, Roger Barstow, where that showed that not only did they build that library space for us, but they also said it will pay the utilities, will pay the landscaping, will pay repairs, will do everything for you if you will provide the services. And we do. We have a collection out there. We serve the school. We serve the public. We provide the collections, we provide the staffing and everything, and then she just wants to like put us in a 400 square feet. So basically, once I found out what she wanted to do, and I showed her the contract and she was dumbfounded because she'd never seen it before. She had no idea that the library was not given school space. The library was built onto the school to be a community library. So anyway, they have a problem because they need more classroom space. They want to increase their kindergarten space in order to increase their revenues at that school. And they want that library, which is a perfect view from the administrative offices for their kindergarten classrooms. And so anyway, she showed me this small room, which was, they say, 400 square feet. We looked at the space in front of that, going toward the front entrance, and I said to myself, maybe we can infill that space and get ourselves a new space that's, kind of off the way. Well, so I immediately called John from the parking lot, and I said, here's how it stands, because I told Missy, excuse me for doing this, but I told her, I said, we can't run a service at 400 square feet. We just can't do it, because we'd be wasting our money to try to do that, and it would not serve the public. And I said, and then I suggested maybe moving the Tushy building out there when that became available. We couldn't do that because it has a bathroom and their septic system will not accommodate any more facilities. So that was out. we talked about taking over one of the houses. I suggested that maybe they would like to give us one of those houses. No, they have too long of a waiting list. And I said, well, I said, I know that you want the service. Oh, she said, we love the services. The services are very important to the community. You know, the family says how important it is. I said, I know it's important. I said, so let's work something out. So I asked her to set up a meeting with Roger, and I told her I was going to call John, which I did do. And he graciously came out that very afternoon and looked over the space, talked to Missy. He figured out that one space was not a very good idea, and he'll talk about this whole thing. But he did talk to Missy, and he told Missy he would have something to her by Friday, which was last Friday. And he did have it ready by Friday, and he shared it with me. And then Missy was not in Friday, nor is she in today. So John has left an email with Roger to see if we can't meet tomorrow to go over this. And we're hoping, of course, that he just sees the win-win-win of this. So I'm going to turn it over to John and
Okay.
let him talk about what he has done.
Well, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Vista Hermosa. Have you all been out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that front page then of your drawings show you enough information that you're oriented to where I'm talking about. But the note there that just shows a new infill building is where the new library I could see proposing to put it. The reason is, if you turn to the very last page of that, there's a floor plan on the back. And the space that Missy was talking about using for the library was this space right basically in the corner right here, 400 square feet approximately. And then Aletha was suggesting maybe we move it out and put it in this area as well. But even by trying to wedge something into that space, there wouldn't be enough space to be comparable to the size of space we have now. And then I started looking at it and thinking that, you know, if you took this classroom, which there's a common wall right here, a solid wall, if you just took a larger classroom here that is currently being used and slid it down and use this space, then you could take this end piece right here that has a classroom in it now and incorporate that into the library and build a new building out here, which is, I think, around 700, 800 square feet or so of new construction. And when you do that, it actually does a couple things. It puts the entrance to the community library in the same zone or corridor that they have for an entrance into their community chapel and into the community gymnasium, which is back here. Those are all, according to what Missy told me, used basically every evening and every weekend anyway. So it's really putting, you know, combining all of the different public community needs in one area, where it makes it simpler for them, the Vista Hermosa, to control that space, because then they can lock things down in the rest of the library or rest of the school where they don't want public to have access to after hours, and be able to manage this. And then the other thing that I think is nice about this is that it creates a courtyard back here. The day I was out there, it was very windy, and I think it's probably frequently windy out there from my memory of being in the country. And so this is sort of a protected area that they could utilize as outdoor classroom space and use it as meeting space or community space for the library. Missy also mentioned to me that they really have a lot of trouble with these classrooms overheating in the summertime. And the computer lab, which is over on the other side just off the page, when I was out there, I walked in and it was so hot. I bet it was 85, 90 degrees in that computer lab, and I was surprised that the computers hadn't shut down, you know. Yeah. But so they have a mechanical problem. They have a need for a solution for that as well. If we put the building here, if it's a flat-topped building, you could conceal the mechanical unit up on top that would serve that library. and they could size it large enough that it could also serve the needs of this west exposure that should be zoned separately anyway, because that gets the west afternoon sun. And then they can control that whole area and have some decent environmental controls on that whole west wing. So there's a win there, for a big win for them, because they've got a problem with that anyway. And then I didn't hear it, but Aletha thought that there might be a roof leak. Missy mentioned a roof leak, and it may be over the same area, so all of that gets taken care of as well. So
The courtyard really blends with the
Yeah,
southwestern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks really nice.
And then you want to talk about your pricing, what you figured out?
yeah, well, you know what we've used so far for new construction, our estimates is $150 a square foot. So that's what I used on this new portion. And it's 800 square feet for that piece that is in addition to the existing building. So if you were doing 800 square feet times $150 a square foot, you end up at somewhere around $120,000 for the new addition. There would be some, I think probably minor expenses of re-outfitting the classroom, you know, taking one wall out and putting in a operable wall, if they like the idea of an operable wall, to give them some flexibility, and then upscaling mechanical a little bit to serve the classrooms. So there'd be some costs involved in the remodel of the existing space, but you know, principally the $120,000 to probably $150,000 figure would cover that pretty well, I think.
What we'd like to do when we sit down with Roger, I've been calling him Roji all along. I have to keep checking.
No,
I know, I'm not around here.
Let me add that I talked to Roger today briefly.
Oh, good.
And he is out of town now. He'll be back briefly on Friday, but basically turned just doing his laundry and heading out again. So he won't be available for probably 10 to 15 days, a couple weeks. But he's interested and wants to know more about it. He's playing catch up basically, because this was all initiated with Missy talking to you.
Yeah, I know.
So he's trying to get up to speed, and so I, you know, kind of explained, and he's very interested. He cautioned me that they don't have a lot of extra cash right now to spend on things, but nobody ever does. So, but he's you know, very positive about working with the library district. He knows there's a long-standing relationship and respects and honors that. So what I said is that I would, you know, give the information to you. You and Missy could essentially talk about it, and I would give it to him in an electronic data file that you could then have Missy send to him, and he was anxious to see what we were talking about doing.
Was there any indication that that they might want to participate in the financing of these improvements?
Yeah, but he was, you know, because he didn't know anything about what we were talking about, he was obviously trying to be cautious and say, you know, I'm not sure how much we can afford, but it wasn't, you know, oh no, we absolutely can't.
Or that it wasn't their responsibility.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm curious about the contract originally, you know, when they were the ones who sought us out, and they were the ones who wanted and furnished space. And writing that contract the way they did, it seems to me now they've decided they want school space, they have to have some fiscal responsibility for it.
I think that
rather than just to take us out, because this is not what the
that's why I gave the contract
says.
to Missy. She's only been there a year, and she
better read the contract.
She hasn't been a school administrator before.
Well, she's got a lot to learn there.
Yes, and she was quite amazed that that space was actually built for the library, and it has Roger's signature on it. So she's being brought up to date, and it's really clear that the community wanted that. So I don't think that there's a conflict here at all. I think it's just educating Missy and getting Roger involved again. But at that price, I would recommend that we incorporate this concept into our facilities master plan.
I'd see that, I think that they have money to help.
I would agree, but they might want to do a partnership.
Well, I know, but I wouldn't go in and volunteering all of ours.
I don't think we want to do that, no. In fact, that's why I asked John if he mentioned it.
No,
and I had mentioned to Missy too.
Yeah.
They know how to write very good grants.
What I specifically said was, you know, the art is my department, the numbers are your department, so you will have to carry on with that. So.
I will do so. I will do so.
Do you need a motion?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Okay,
No,
so you're
please,
just
no.
telling us about it.
I'm just asking if there's a consensus to incorporate this into the work we're doing for our facilities master plan. Because Vista was off the table at the beginning because we thought it was done.
Yeah.
And it's not. So that's all I'm asking is a consensus for us to go forward with the concept.
Concept. I'm good with concept.
Good with the concept?
Well, and maybe paying half.
Right, right.
Something like that. That concept.
No, you're right, and I know they have to buy in, so.
They have to
buy in.
They have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we need to withdraw services.
Yeah. And that would be horrific.
So the contract doesn't commit us to provide services?
Yes, but it commits them to providing
Private
space.
space.
And they can always decide to keep the library where it is.
They can.
Yes.
And they were planning on having more. They've just gone into a contract with the school district of Prescott also. So there's some other things going on there. It's not just a private school now.
But that's true, and that's why I'm astonished that they think they can, well, they didn't really think they could function without a library. They just thought that they could put it in that.
I think there's a lot, but more information needs to be gotten before we commit ourselves to anything. Because they've got a lot of, that contract really makes them committed to us.
Right, but are you suggesting that we...
No, just keep learning. Just keep...
Well, and
Don't promise anything.
Well, I took it out to Missy and gave it to her.
No, that,
Yeah, it's fine.
that's fine.
But I'm just saying, they're the ones who are going to have to do the
Grunting?
grunt work.
Are you guys understanding each other?
No,
I didn't
what do
think
you
so.
mean about the grunt work?
Well, they're the ones that
Define
really...
the grunt work.
They have to buy in.
They have to buy in.
Yes, sure.
And they have to...
Financially.
But obviously, she was not under the impression that they had any responsibility to us.
That's correct.
And they have that, they do have responsibility to us.
That's true, but Missy doesn't make the decisions.
No.
Yeah.
But the people who make the decisions knew they have a responsibility. They knew it already, they signed the papers.
Yeah, I just don't think
That's
she
true, but they don't know what
communicated
Missy's
with
up to.
them.
Yes, so they've got to get their act together between the two of
Well,
them.
that's why we're trying to put Missy and Roger and me and John together.
Yeah.
They gotta get in
Because
the same
Missy
room.
came up with this idea, and she wants it done pronto. And I
Well,
said, we can't.
Missy's naive. Ooh, boy.
Right.
Let's face it.
But that's why we're dealing with it so quickly, is so that we can try to resolve it before, I don't know, before they
Backing up
promise
and moving.
kindergarten to somebody and it doesn't work, I don't know. We're just trying to be a good neighbor. But I want to thank John for doing this work. I
Yes,
think
very
it's beautiful,
nice.
very creative, and it looks to me like a win-win all the way around.
Okay, any other questions on anything within the board here?
Yeah.
Okay, Alice?
I am listening to the public, and I am concerned about the fall. I am very worried that if there is nothing with the city, we're going to have a lot of unhappy people, and we will never be able to resolve this issue. And so I'm wondering what, we need to not let it go. It needs to continue to try to work something out. Even if we proceed with the building, it will not be ready by December.
That's very true.
And I'm concerned at what and where people will be able to go or not be able to go.
Why don't you explain what they did in the working
Well,
group when you made an offer?
We actually agreed with Alice, that we did not want to deprive people of the access until we had a comparable facility available for them. And in the library working group, we put forth an offer to pay for access for a portion of the year. And we offered to pay for the card holders, the 1,800 card holders that use the library and have habitually used the library. We offered to pay 1,800 people times our per capita, which is $63, instead of their per capita, which is about 25. In other words, we were offering about 2.5 times as much money as they would get from a per capita cost, and that comes out to about $123,000. They said no, that they wouldn't even consider that. Then we offered to pay for the cards for those people who wanted access. They said they would not sell cards.
Now, did the person who made these statements, have they discussed things with the city council, or they just made this information up on their own?
We don't know.
We don't know.
It's what we were told in the working group, that they wouldn't sell.
That's right.
Wouldn't sell
So that
cards.
means they've already met the city council and has decided not to be cooperative?
They have a work session on the 16th, and at that work session, they may discuss things like this again, and they may say, well, really, you should take whatever you can get. I don't know. But in this working group, we said we understood that there would be a time period when people would not have the kind of access they're used to. We offered to pay for it. But we're not going to pay at the full rate that they've been asking all of these years, because it's too high a number.
Well, the state auditor said that's not.
Well, that's true. Besides, if you calculate it out, it's just, and the services have diminished. They're not on the Courier anymore. They're not on OCLC Interlibrary Loan anymore. They are not on Walnut anymore. They don't lend their DVDs and CDs to rural residents.
We don't lend anything.
And we lend these things to the city residents. We did up until
They
December.
loan to me. I'm a county resident.
If you walk in, but if you were out in Burbank and asked for it to be delivered, they would not send it. So that's what I'm saying. I didn't mean to say they wouldn't let you have it. I'm saying they would not transmit it by our courier system to anyone else in the county, even though the contract amount we were paying was for the county as a whole.
And we were providing courier service.
We were providing the courier service.
Well, they were borrowing from us.
Yes, 4,000 that we were lending to 1,000 that they were lending. And yet they have more than, well, twice the population. So there was no recognition whatsoever of all the services that we were providing on behalf of the consortium and the sharing. And yet they drew the line at a certain number that they decided, and not a number that we thought was more just for the services.
Jane Allen, did you have a comment?
No.
Okay. I think we're ready to adjourn?
Okay.
Did that answer your question? It tells me a little bit more about what went on. It doesn't satisfy the problem. It doesn't solve the problem that will come up.
Do you have a suggestion?
It seems like there still needs to be ongoing conversations with the city. I don't know how that could come about. I know you've all tried, but.
Well, we have a city councilman sitting here. Let's ask him.
Yeah. I know you can't speak for the council, but.
Of course. My concern is these meetings were held behind closed doors, which I understand why they were. But when you have two parties trying to reach an agreement on something, and you have closed doors, what you end up with are two versions of what happened. And when you have notes that don't have names associated, it makes it very, very difficult for those of us who were being represented to truly understand the nature of the discussions. I gave you guys my statement. That's how I feel. I want the negotiations to continue. Obviously, I can't speak for other council members. You'd have to solicit their opinions independently. But I hope that can give you some information as to where I'm coming from. I can appreciate the information that I've gathered tonight from, I think, your perspective, and of course I have the perspective of my colleagues to consider as well. But it remains that if, because of the negotiations that happened, the ties are severed, it leaves a lot of frustrated people because we weren't allowed to come and observe what happened and have an objective report. So that's where it's too bad that we can't have, again, speaking for myself, a meeting with an open meeting with council or your board or whoever. I'm still trying to figure out how this board is related to the county commissioners and understand why the county commissioners don't have a say in things. They've been relatively quiet on the issue, even though I believe they do appoint members of this board, correct?
Yeah, but if there's a law.
Well, I know, and I understand that. Yet, I think that as public officials, we have an obligation to represent the sentiments of our constituents, regardless of, they may not have a final say. But I would think that the people expect us to speak on their behalf, and we're not doing our jobs if we're not. Which is why I've come, is because I think that there's a lot of concerned citizens. And that's why I've come independent of council, because I know there's a history. I'm not overly familiar on it, and I do not want to become jaded by any past histories that have existed. I think I would like to approach the discussion with a blank slate. And I know you can't just discount history and things that have been tried. But Alice?
Yes.
I'm with you. I just, it would be very disappointing to see the relationship terminated in such a hot and hostile environment. We're talking about sharing. We're talking about sharing books, for crying out loud. I mean, this should be one of the most benign topics we have. I mean, when I ran for council, I was blindsided when I got a couple questions about my opinion on the libraries, because I thought, well, are you kidding? We have issues with the libraries, and of course we do. And I don't want to make light of that, but it is frustrating for me that we can't work something out. And I know there is he said, she says, and I don't even want to bother with that. I simply want to express what I think people are feeling, frustration.
We feel the same frustration.
Sure. And I understand. I know you guys, I've been on the other side already in my 6 months.
It's wild.
You understand one thing, and people come and they,
wild.
They throw how they're feeling at you, and you're going, gosh, why can't they understand? But I happen to be on the side that finds a decision for the building you guys are choosing to move forward with. My opinion I've expressed, but that doesn't mean that I'm not open, personally not open to continuing figuring out how we can work together, because we do have 50,000 people or so in this county, including the city, that would like superb library services.
Well, I think we have to look at, we do have 50,000 people, but we don't have that many people using the library. That's also something that needs to.
I don't understand that too.
Yeah, that is baffling to me.
Yeah, I mean, and from our standpoint, I mean, I know our situation is, we may, things continue where they're at. It's obvious that there will be a reduction in services at the Walla Public Library, and that's a separate discussion as to, well, maybe that. Some people would say, well, maybe that's okay. I mean, I don't use the library. It's fine with me if it's open on the weekends and you can go in. But there's a very strong and passionate group of people that believe in full service. And so, I'm interested in exploring all options. I mean, I'm certainly not you know, if this all falls apart, then I've done what I can, and I'm going to move on and try to work a solution with what we do have. But right now, I see this board and the city having incredible opportunity to work together to provide exceptional service. And I do respect that the two directors sat down and found that the consolidation, the annexation wouldn't work. And I need to study that much more thoroughly. But to me, it's just unacceptable that we can't find some way to work together. And so, yes, I would be more than happy to see discussions continue.
And that gentleman, one of the men that was over there, who said something about, you know, we don't, I'm not switching sides, Chris, but I've been thinking, I think a lot, and I go one way and then I go the other way, and this board knows that. I play the devil's advocate role quite a bit. And he said something, well, somebody's got to be the devil, right? He said something about, you know, people are using their Kindles and their Nooks, and we have discussed this repeatedly, that people are actually coming into libraries more than they ever have. The use for libraries has escalated a lot. And so, you know, I think, well, what's wrong with having another library for more people to use? We have banks on every corner of this town. We have grocery stores on every corner of this town. Why?
They didn't use my tax dollar.
But you know what? Okay,
Not all of those were your tax dollars, believe it or not. The funds that have been, they've been sitting there for a long time, and when the market was fantastic and people were making great returns on their investments, that fund grew like craziness. So it's not just all tax dollars.
But it came from tax dollars.
The original investment was tax dollars. But there's a lot of...
We're talking about the return on taxpayer dollars.
It was good stewardship.
Yeah.
That we didn't use, yeah, the money, we had a little bit every year that didn't get spent because of the space shortages, the books problems and stuff. And so it's put into money market that the government, the county manages for us, and it earned interest. Over 40 years, money accrues tremendously.
So that doesn't make it a tax dollar.
The interest?
The interest is.
Absolutely, it's based on tax dollars.
Right, but I think there needs to be a clarification. It's not like we kept all of these tax dollars and put them into that account.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We didn't withhold services from you to get this money.
There was a significant amount.
Okay, I see what we're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the service center that they're operating out of now is not functional. It's not working.
Why do you guys have a full crowd?
So
It was even fuller.
Yeah.
It was fuller.
Have you been by the service center? Do you know where that's at?
No, but I guess I do have a couple of questions if that's appropriate.
Sure.
That's a good
Could
point.
I'd like to see a copy of the bylaws, of your bylaws as a board. And
It's
then
It's on the website.
Okay, that'd be great.
I mean, it's very...
Well, she just looked for it, so we didn't find it. So
It
that's
should
what
be
I'm
there.
asking. But
There's
the
a
other
lot.
question is, how would you, as a board, like community members to communicate their concerns with you regarding the building plans? Because I think we've all agreed, there's a lot of concern out there about the misuse of tax dollars, and yet you don't seem to have heard from the community.
We're hearing.
We have heard, we've also heard people...
No, I mean, like, are you talking by email? Are you talking, would you like phone calls?
We've had meetings
What's
that
your-
had people have come and they've told us what they want.
Okay, but I guess what I'm asking is, if the community is not behind this decision to build a building and want it away, is there, beyond these meetings, which not everyone knows about and not everyone reads the Union Bulletin, how would you like them? Is there an email address that people, or would you like letters? I'm just asking what works for you. How can we best communicate with you to let you know?
There's a contact.
There's a contact on the website.
It's a very good website.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of
Appreciate that.
information on the website. There's a great deal of information about the negotiations of last fall, a great deal of data relating to the contract costs and so on. So,
Karen, excuse
go
me.
ahead, I'm sorry.
There's also a lot of data on best practices and standards for libraries that wasn't even addressed here today. And, you know, the public doesn't seem to hear that.
I don't know that they were as interested until they heard the price tag of this new
Which
building.
was incorrect.
Which was
wrong.
But at 3.5, Carol.
That's not a huge
It is
building.
if it's in close proximity to the public library we have today. I think it is very close, and it's a lot of money.
But part of it is not the library, you know, part of it is the service center. It's, you know.
And I appreciate that. I'm saying it
The
is a
current
lot of money.
library, and help me with this if I have my numbers wrong, has 0.61 square feet.
The downtown library has
Yes.
0.61 square feet per capita for the 30,000 population. If you take the entire area of 50,000, it's only 0.45 square feet per thousand. And yet the standard, the American Library Association, is 0.81. So basically the downtown library is inadequate to serve this population. 2 branches are good. 1 branch is too small. We're trying to enrich and enhance the service options. And it's not taking away from the downtown library, it's just adding to the services that there are. Because the only other option is to keep giving money to the city library, which isn't big enough to serve the population and library needs of the future. So we're just trying to enhance. My suggestion, and I made this in the library working group, is that we enhance our libraries, and then a year or 2 down the road, we simply have reciprocal services at no cost.
But I think if you were to go to the community, what they would say is if you want to spend 3.5 million to improve our library, let's put it into 1 library for the entire community.
We actually explored that. Beth and I worked up the numbers on that. We presented it to the group. We calculated out all of the staffing that would serve that. It was a great idea. Barbara came up with it. We came up with a 25,000 square foot library. And the tax base does not yield enough money to actually support it of that size. Now, we could diminish services, but the tax yields about $979 or $959,000 out of the city, which would be contributed, you know, to this district.
You mean if they annexed?
If they annexed.
But they have to vote to annex.
They would have to vote to
So that
annex,
means
and it would be a
about as
48-cent
successful
tax.
as this
And if you put
swimming
the
pool.
2 together, you actually could make it work in 1 good new building, but not with the salary structure they have there. In other words, not by folding in the existing structure into our structure, because we have a different salary and benefit structure. It's not a bad salary benefit structure at all. It's very good, but it's not the same as the city because we're not unionized. But the thing is that if you fold in, if they annex, then they become part of the district. The city becomes part of the district. And the city and the rural district become 1. And then they're governed by a 5-member board. That's how it works.
Well, I apologize for taking so much time. I just
No, this is
no,
a
if
good
they can help you understand, I mean, we have,
Would that board then be an elected board?
No, it would be appointed by the county
Appointed by the
commissioners, just
county.
like we are.
yeah, the new library
not
would be
be
run by the
elected.
county. And the city, I don't think is
The
interested
city
in,
doesn't really want us to do
want
that.
to give up control.
That's
And
right.
we went to the county and said, okay, if we are able to get annexation, would you work with us, with the RCWs, to figure out how to divide the county into districts that would be good representation for the city?
That's right.
And they said, yes, we would be glad to work with you on that.
Yeah.
So it
we
would
took
be a
that
whole
back
new
to the
group of board. It
Right.
wouldn't
It'd be a
the
new
same.
board, and they would be appointed by the commissioners, and they would do it proportionally.
When you give the numbers of the people you're serving, you say per capita. Are you using the per capita of the city Or are you using the per capita of the people who use the library?
When I talk about per capita, I'm saying how much money each person inside a taxing jurisdiction is worth for the tax. In other words, if it's a per capita for the city, you take the city budget for library and you divide into that 30,000 people. And you end up with the exact amount per capita, including children and, you know, infants and everything, per capita population into what they're paying. And you come up with the amount of money that the city is paying on behalf of each individual in that taxing jurisdiction with that tax.
So you use that for the city, but when you're talking about providing money for the people in the county, you only use the library users.
No.
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 The per capita,
Our per
no,
capita
no.
for the county is it works the same?
I know what Betty's talking about. What you're saying is that when we negotiate a contract with the city, we should not be talking about per capitas. We should be talking about, you know, all the people that can have access to the library. That is one of the main contentions in the contract between the city and the rural library district. The city wants us to pay for access for the entire population base.
Even though you only a small amount uses.
That's right.
Only 1,700 people out of 10,000 use the city library. They want us to pay for all 10,000.
That's right. And actually, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that is that we.
Those 10,000 would never use that
They would
facility.
no. They're non-residents. Non-residents.
It isn't as though you're depriving anybody else.
Yes, we are. We're depriving all the rest of the county library services by giving that money to the city. We don't have those assets to develop the
You
rural
have
library
enough to build a library.
That's capital money, Betty.
I don't understand what the difference is.
This
You
is
put
the-
away so much every year, why not use it instead of putting it away as long as you've got?
We can provide very, very fine service at a lower per capita than they're trying to charge us for access to the city library.
We have a representative from Mid-Columbia Library here. And the Tri-City wanted to speak.
I did have a question, and this is part of this is my philosophical opinion on things and my experience. Is I hear a lot of statements about the rural library district paying the city for access. What I don't understand, and this is not just my experience, but this is the reality of the situation in the state of Washington and across the country, is that city library services have been proven almost exclusively not to be a sustainable model.
That's right.
For funding. That you'll see Tacoma, you see Seattle, you see Spokane. They have all taken hits across the board. We are fortunate in the state of Washington to have library districts. It means we have special districts dedicated to provide library services to our citizens and our taxpayers. Not all states have that. I think Walla County is fortunate to have their own library district. The question I have is, as I understand it, you have been a net lender to the city of Walla. They have borrowed more than you have.
That's right.
You have a much more stable funding source than the city does. The city libraries have to compete with public safety, with roads, with everything else. And as we know, unfortunately, public safety has interest arbitration. They are stuck in contracts that are very expensive with the police and firefighters unions. Things are going up. The question I have is, and it sounds like annexation was not an option, why has not the city said, why don't we contract with the rural library district? You're set up legally to do that, and you have a stable funding source that they don't.
You hear what he's saying, Chris?
But they don't seem to be interested in working with
I'm
us.
just pointing that out there again.
That question was never asked.
I want to underline what he's saying. I want to underline what he's saying. That it's essentially, having come from places where served by library districts, it's a vanity project for the city of Walla Walla to try to maintain a city library. They can't do it properly. Beth Hudson gave a one-sheet summary of what the city budget would provide in the way of library services back in the fall. It was just horrifying as a citizen to look at that idea of the reduced budget, the reduced staffing, the closed hours. That was when I started to understand the dynamics of this process. The city can't afford to provide an adequate library service to its own residents, but they've been relying on the county to make up those shortfalls. And the long-term strategy all across the state of Washington is to combine forces and work in consolidate services and reduce administrative overhead and duplication as much as possible and go down that highway. I will say one final thing. You have a serious, and I'm not a library person, I don't have an MLS degree, but I am a communication person from years ago. You have a major communication problem here that's been created by the fact that you now have two different versions of reality. You've been behind closed doors for 6 months, and to dismiss it as a he said, she said problem is underestimating the gulf that's out here. People come to these meetings, they're asking basic fundamental questions. Where is your budget? Where is your byline? What is your process? And it's not enough, Mrs. Warnick, I'm really sorry, you keep telling them it's on the website. You have a massive educational engagement process to start here, and you haven't begun that process. You have not begun to explain to people how the system works, and I'm very...
How would you like that to come about?
I think the first step is going to happen. You're not going to get any progress done and resolve this issue until there's a widely advertised meeting with both sides in the room, and the public invited, a microphone set up there, and painful as it might be, you're going to listen to every person who wants to say something about this situation over and over again, and explain and have as much background information and the fact sheets that we're talking about, the spreadsheets and the details spelled out ahead of time, because until those conflicting versions of reality are reconciled, at least have some engagement that's in front of people, they can come and see it and have it be recorded and play it on the internet afterwards, you're never going to get past this fundamental gap of the city's not doing its job, the county's not doing its job, and why can't we build a building? And you've got major communication problems to deal with here. I would encourage, I understand where it's coming from, I understand why you want to do that, but you've got a massive educational engagement process to start with here, and you're not, I don't think you've begun to fight. I really don't, I'm pessimistic about the outcomes here. I've been watching this unfold for months. I'm really disappointed that the working group tried to do this behind closed doors and failed, and then tossed a bunch of documents on the website and said, okay, let's go down the path.
I think one of the things that I heard, though, is that there is a commitment to improve services. It sounds like things have been pursued. One of the things that I don't know has been said enough is the fact that to improve, let alone maintain, but to improve library services in Walla County, things have to change. Things can't stay the same. You can't just have a city library and a county library. There has to be a fundamental change. It doesn't make sense to have one group, regardless of the group, pay the other group to maintain existing services, because that's the situation we're in right now, and this has led to less than optimum services, I think, for both county taxpayers and city taxpayers. And I don't know if that came about saying, for us to survive, let alone thrive, things have to be altered fundamentally, and regardless of governance between the city and the county or the funding model. But I don't know if that had ever gotten to that point. It sounded like, well, we want things to stay the same for us, but at the same time, don't move my cheese.
No, yeah, I know about moving the cheese, but we really did face up to those things, and for survival of really good services, there should be a cooperative thing going.
Oh, definitely.
But clearly, the two entities are not the place where they can do that right now.
Sure.
And it's basically governance and finances. Those are the two issues. Their desire to cooperate is there.
I just think, objectively, I am frustrated for you in the sense that the library district is set up in such a way to be a better mechanism to be able to fund library services.
That's true.
So, and I don't know if that's been communicated as well, as that's a better way of doing it, and we're privileged to have that in this state. So.
Chris?
Well, first I'm here.
Yes.
So I cannot accept that the city does not. I mean, even if one person from council is willing to talk, one person from your board. I mean, I say that there's hope. Second, to address what you said about communication. I mean, that's an issue across politics in general. I mean, I face the same thing you do. I mean, people don't come and research things until they are passionate about it, and typically, you know, and I've been guilty of it before, we all have, you want to find statistics that support your point of view. And so I understand that, you know, that is an uphill. Communications is going to be difficult, and always will be. But I am curious though, after what you said, in your working group, did you guys explore the reverse, the city contracting to you guys? Was that brought up? Just curious.
That specific thing was not discussed. We did talk about joining the regional district, and in order to do that, the city would have to join the rural district, and then the rural district would join the regional district. And there was an indication that that did not seem politically feasible.
So politics, not necessarily finances.
No.
Okay, so that's a good. I appreciate that answer. Next is this goes back because it's just a question because I want to make sure I understand it. You guys mentioned you explored a joint library, a 25,000 square foot library, and serving the per capita. Now we're all, I think, very aware that even though you've suggested that library usage is going up, it is very low as far as, you know, out of 10 people, 1 or 2 people's going to be familiar with your libraries. So when my immediate response, without any research, is that even if the people of the surrounding rural areas, those people that actively use the public library here in town, you know, is there overcrowding? Is overcrowding an issue right there right now, or are we just taking numbers and we're saying, well, according to the numbers, we would need a bigger facility in an ideal situation when in fact, perhaps. Do you guys follow me? From
I follow you. I do.
I'm just curious.
And we've talked about this too, because what we do now is what will be here in 20 years. I mean, we have to plan way out there.
Okay.
And in addition, I would have to say that the usage is really low for standards, and it's probably because of the fact that more can be done to serve the public. More can be done to meet the expectations and the usage patterns, the Kindles, the downloads, the, you know, learning about the devices, having reader advisory people there, having technology people there to help people with the downloads and so on. The libraries need to be flexible and move into the way content and information is delivered in this new age. And unless the library responds to that, it doesn't really attract, you know, the bulk of the population. So we believe that that with better facilities, more facilities and options for people, that there will be greater usage, and we will be able to provide the services that will raise the usage statistics to where they should be for a modern library.
One of the things when Ruth Metz did the report to begin with, we hired her to come, she said that the City of Walla used to fund its libraries $1 per person. Now they're funding at 40 cents per person, so it's just plain to understand there's a terrible squeeze. The money's not there.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head with what you said about competing, and some of the things, as I found, right out of your hands. Nothing you can do, which is frustrating. Yeah, which is why, again, I think it's so important for us to work together, because there are 30,000 people here that you don't necessarily represent, but they are our community members, and they don't necessarily understand, as I didn't until I got into this job, that it's not a matter of, and you know, I know where they're coming from, like when you're talking about capital projects, that's money for that, and that's a frustrating thing for the public is, you know, you look and you go, how can a school be doing this and say they don't have enough money, but then they drop all this money on a new building, and learning that there's different accounts and you can't touch them legally. You know, they're not going to go out and they just care that, you know, hey, our library is funded, and so.
Yeah.
If the city were to join the rural library district, and that rural library district were to join the regional library, what is the governance of that then? What?
Well, the commissioners from all the counties get together and they choose board members. What is it, 2 per county?
We have well, the way it's set up in the RCW is there's 7 for inter-county library district. So like they have 5, we have 7.
That's right, it's proportional.
It's proportional.
Right. So if we joined in, they would reapportion.
They would, yeah.
But it's no more than 7 total.
No, it's capped at 7.
Right. So
if you're contracting or annexing?
Annexing.
For annexing, contracting, you're not necessarily guaranteed seats on the board. Because the legal district, for us, it's Benton and Franklin counties. For example, Adams County contracts with us, but they do not have a seat on the board because they're not actually part of the actual district. However, we've been nice. Pasco has been contracting with us since the 70s, and we have a representative from Pasco because we're such a large city, and it's a pretty big revenue source for that too.
Oh, but that's not the county. Oh, I
know. No, and that, so the commissioners have been okay with that.
Yeah.
So.
You know, I just want to say one last thing, and Chris, I appreciate what you're saying, but I know that there's fundamental issues with the duplication of services that you guys have expressed clearly tonight. And I'm sorry that the newspaper article didn't quite hit the nail on the head in terms of getting all the facts straight, because I think it really aggravated a lot of emotions that, you know, nobody needed, especially the people who are angry about it. You know, nobody likes to get upset like that. The one thing that I've noticed about working with these guys for the last 2 months is that, and it may be a big difference between the organizations, is that these guys, they have a goal of only one thing, and that is library services. They want to have the best library service that they can possibly get. That is the egg that they're going after in every discussion. And so that's what they've been trying to do, and this is their direction that they're taking right now is for the goal of premium library services. And that sort of takes us back to the same old story, but the fact is that they are trying very hard to do that. So.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Enjoyed meeting you. Thank you.
Come in at 7:30.